If you're watching this video, you're probably somebody that wants personal growth. You're probably somebody that wants more out of life. This is a personal growth channel. I will put my money on it that this channel is pound for pound one of the best, if not the best, as far as getting positive impact in your life. Point is, here's the deal. You don't want to be the frog, right? You want to learn from these stories. So these are funny stories. These are simple stories. And I train on these stories in my organization all of the time. Look at your calendar. There's no such thing as someday. Someday doesn't exist. Monday through Sunday exists in the calendar, but not someday. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the DNG podcast. And in this podcast, I'm going to be giving you, two frog stories, right? And there's a lot of lessons to be learned for an entrepreneur, and not only for an entrepreneur, just for anybody in general, from these two frogs, right? So, when we were kids, we were told bedtime stories, right? So I'm going to tell you two bedtime stories, so to speak, but for success and how they could apply and add value to your life. So with that being said, let's get started. So the first story of the frog is, the question is, how do you cook a frog? Well, I'll tell you how you cook a frog. So there was a frog, and somebody wanted to cook this frog. So they simply said, well, listen, I'm not going to throw it into boiling hot water because a frog is simply going to jump out of the pan if I throw it in boiling hot water. So that's not the way to do it. Why don't we be subtle about it, right? Now, that's a key word, by the way, subtle. So they said, we're going to put the frog in room temperature water. We're just going to enter the frog in room temperature water, and the frog is not the wiser. So what happens after a while? The frog is chilling. He's in room temperature water. And then all of a sudden they turn up the heat just a little bit. And before you know it, the frog kind of gets used to it. It's kind of like when you get into a jacuzzi, right? When you get into a jacuzzi for the first time, it's an impact. Oh, snap. Or even into a pool sometimes. Cold, maybe a little bit. The water may be a little bit colder. And in the beginning, it's an impact. But eventually, your body adjusts to it. Same thing with the frog, right? So with the frog, it's room temperature. It's easy to adjust. But as they put the temperature up a little bit, the frog doesn't feel it that much. Then they put it up a little bit more. And the water is getting hotter, but the frog is gradually getting used to this hotter temperature. So they don't really feel it. They're not the wiser yet. Before you know it, they increase the temperature of the water to the point where it cooks the frog. Now, why do I mention this story of cooking the frog? Here's the reason why I mentioned this story. The reason why I mentioned the story is because guess what? The analogy, right? The metaphor of this frog is one of the majority of the people in the world. The majority of the people in the world end up, here's what I tell people all the time. Kids, for example, when they're 13 years old, 12 years old, 11 years old, they're looking up to their parents. Once around 13 or 14 years old, they stop looking at their parents as grown-ups and rather look at them as given-ups. Because now somebody else at that age for that kid is their hero. LeBron James is their hero, right? An artist is their hero. A degenerate artist, right, is their hero. Sometimes degenerate actors or somebody on TV is their hero. And it's very unfortunate that the parents, right after a certain age, they're not the kid's hero anymore. And the reason why is because the parents were cooked like a frog. The majority of the population in the world is cooked like a frog. In the beginning, when they're 18 years old and they're entering the work life, guess what happens? Most people are programmed to have excuses, right? And alibis as to why they're not successful. So when somebody's 18 years old, here's what they often say. Well, I'm not experienced enough. I don't have the money. I don't have the contacts. I don't have the credibility. Yada, 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 yada. Excuse. Then in the middle, right? Maybe in their late 20s, early 30s, they say, oh, it's because I'm busy and I'm going to get to it and I'm going to get to it. And one day, and they live in the world of the someday. Someday, I'm going to pay my bills. Someday, I'm going to start my business. Someday, I'm going to get out of debt. Someday, I'm going to take that vacation. Someday, until the day they die. And then one day, they're laying in their deathbed wondering what happened to all those days. And then when they get older, guess what happens? When they get older, they say, I'm too tired and I have too many responsibilities. I'm not married. I've got kids. I'm tired. I'm older. And it was excuse after excuse from when they were 18 to when they were, young adults, to when they were in their prime in their 30s and 40s. And then eventually, guess what they did? They went all their life making excuses and procrastinating. Guess what happened? The system and society and the way this world works cooked them like a frog. So guess what? You don't want to be that frog. You don't want to be that frog. So that is the reason why we're doing this video here today. The question to you is, are you gradually getting cooked? Are you going through life, tippy-toeing around life because you're scared of failure and tippy-toeing around life all the way to the grave? I don't know about you, man, but that's a sad way to live. At least not for me. That's not the way I want to live. And listen, here's the deal. If you're watching this video, you're probably somebody that wants personal growth. You're probably somebody that wants more out of life, right? So I know my audience. Now, if you're somebody that's not a go-getter, never's been a go-getter, you don't want to achieve much, I don't know why you would even be watching this video, especially this far into it, right? So I'm talking to the people that want to level up in life, because everybody that's watching this video, I know the demographic and I know the interests that these people have. This is a personal growth channel. I will put my money on it that this channel is pound for pound one of the best, if not the best, as far as getting positive impact in your life. So anyways, that's story number one. Let's get into story number two. Here's the way story number two works. There's another frog. Okay, I don't know how come today I'm telling frog stories, but I'm telling frog stories. There's another frog, and the frog has a scorpion. And there's a pond, and the frog can jump across the pond on the leaves. It could jump from one leaf to another leaf and so on and so forth, right? It's a small frog, but the scorpion can't do that. So the scorpion goes to the frog, and the scorpion says, "Hey, Mr. Frog, do me a favor. Let me jump on your back and help me get across the pond." And the frog says, "No way, Mr. Scorpion, because you'll sting me. I don't trust you. You're going to sting me." And the scorpion sells the frog. The scorpion closes the frog. And the scorpion says to the frog, he says, "No, why would I sting you, Mr. Frog? If we're jumping across that pond and I sting you, we're both going to die. Doesn't make any sense for me to do that." So the frog thinks to himself, well, that makes sense. I guess, okay, sounds good. How about my back? Let's go across that pond. They're going across the pond, and sure enough, bam, the scorpion stings the frog. Now the frog is right there, knows it's going to die. They're about to sink. They're about to drown. And the frog looks at the scorpion and says to the scorpion, asks the scorpion, "Why did you sting me? Now we're both going to die." The scorpion looks at the frog and says, "Because I'm a scorpion, and that's what scorpions do." What's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is, how many of us have had scorpions like that in our lives? I'll give you an example. I used to have a partner. I won't mention his name. If he watches the video, which I think he does, he'll know who I'm talking about. He knows that I'm talking about him. He was a scorpion in my life. I knew when I partnered up with this dude that he was going to do me wrong. And guess what? I partnered with him anyways. Then I partnered with him again. There's an old saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. These are two stories of a frog that you don't want to be. As a matter of fact, I have another story of a frog, but I'm not going to tell you that story right now because it's just too many damn frogs for one day, right? But guess what? The other one is actually probably better than these two. But the point is, here's the deal. You don't want to be the frog, right? You want to learn from these stories. So these are funny stories. These are simple stories. And I train on these stories in my organization all of the time. The one that was the most impactful for me between all of these here is the first one. Because most people are going to go through their life and they're going to get cooked. They're going to keep procrastinating. They're going to keep putting off things that they know that they shouldn't put off. Like their health. See, most people don't get to the stage of diabetes or to the stage of a heart attack overnight. They cook themselves into that stage. They cook themselves with a bunch of excuses of why they should procrastinate and how tomorrow and someday until they run out of days. Now, here's the deal. Look at your calendar. There's no such thing as someday. Someday doesn't exist. Monday through Sunday exists in the calendar, but not someday. So I hope that this information helps you to go out there and take the initiative. I hope that this information helps you to go out there and take action. And if it's a simple little story like this that gets you to have a little bit more discipline in your life, to go out there and procrastinate less, then I guess it was worth it. Okay. So here's the deal. What you want to make sure that you do is subscribe to this channel, like it and comment it. And guess what? You want to go out there and work on yourself. Share this video with a bunch of other people as well. I would appreciate that. I'm going to always give you guys some content. And as always, for those of you guys commenting, liking, and sharing this podcast, shouting me out on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, go ahead and do that. And I'm going to find some of you guys. I'm going to send you guys some of our entrepreneur shirts. We're going to mail those to you guys. So with that being said, this is JC Rangel, and I said it, I meant it, and I'm here to represent it. Let's make it happen. Talk soon.